Good morning, everyone. This is episode 3 of the Self Care Awareness Month live series. Today's topic is self care for working women and especially for all the mothers out there. I believe that uh, every woman needs to practice self care. Our guest for today is Roopal Kewalya ma'am. She's an author, a screenwriter, a filmmaker. She has written a book called The Little Rainmaker, which is among the top 20 in the Times Chickenhouse Competition in London. She has also written dialogues for a Netflix original fantasy drama Tooth Pari, and also made a film, The Flyman. We are very grateful to have her on board. Um, Ma'am, I have accepted your invite. It takes a few minutes to join. I can see that you have joined the live. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Long time, Chaitanya. So happy that you started this.
Yes, so happy to see you again after so long.
Yes, in 2 years, I think. More than around 2 years, or year and a half.
Uh, we last spoke in 2022, as in face to
Okay.
face online.
Yeah.
A
Right.
long time.
Nice. Should we wait for a bit?
People will join in as they get the notification. So, as and
Okay.
when people join,
Yeah.
would you like to say something before we start with the questions?
Yeah, I think just to you, because thank you for inviting me. At first, I was resisting this when you reached out because I was like, what does self care? I immediately got a little apprehensive because the moment you say self care, there are very typical ideas of self care that we all have. Um, like अपने दिन से इतना time निकाल के ये किया चार चीज I did some pedicure, I went to a spa session or some such stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't do any of that. What kind of self care do I actually practice? And then I sat down. That's why I was asking you if you could send me a list of questions. And I realized, oh, okay, maybe this is not how I approach self care. My idea of self care is entirely different. And that is where I think that is what I would like to focus on in today's session, that self care can mean very different things to different people. And how it impacts you and what it means to you is how you should go forward with it. So, yeah, then I felt a little, I was like, yeah, this is my approach. And I want to be as authentic as possible going forward. Yeah.
Yes, and absolutely, as you said, that
Mm.
self care is personalized and
Yeah.
individual to every person. But I believe, as a working woman,
Mm.
you have worked a lot, you have got
Mm.
so many um, good things that you have done. And as a mom, you can inspire so many young women and all the mothers out there. I believe that every mother is a working woman, be it at the workplace or at home. So, with that, my very first question to you is, how can moms practice self care from home?
Yes, I like that question because that's literally the first thing. The first thing that goes out of window for a mother is self-care. Mothers, especially in our country, are so much wound up in primary. They are the primary caregivers for children. However much men are rising up as equal partners in raising children, it's still, we still have a long way to go before they're equal partners. I want to sort of flip this question a little bit, because I feel before we get into how can mothers, I feel, the first thing is, for me, when I became a mother, I realized the biggest thing that I did as self-care, and my child made me realize it, the birth of my child, was setting boundaries. And that's a very long-term tool of self-care. When you start setting boundaries, because your child is demanding so much out of you, you suddenly do not have space for other things in your life that you earlier had. Now, those could be good things that you were finding a lot of joy out of, but you suddenly also realize that a lot of those things were draining you. They were not really adding on to your life, but a child has come in, and because a child has prioritized certain things for you, you automatically let those things or let those relationships go from your life. Those that are draining you, those that are not adding to your life, right? You miss the good things that you were able to do for yourself, but you also lose out on a lot of noise that was there in your life, which you don't realize until a child comes along. So I think the first thing that I have done, and it has been a very slow process, I'll be very honest, that for me, my child brought in the knowledge that I did not have very good boundaries with people around me. And that is my biggest gift from being a mother, is to know that my boundaries have been exploited a lot, or I have been giving too much of my energy away in things that do not matter to me, or in relationships that have not given me equal, what I have been giving into that relationship. So setting those boundaries, and I'm still learning. I'll be very honest. It's not like I have sort of surpassed it, but I'm very, very good at it now. That is something I can acknowledge myself for. And I have been a mother for 10 years, and it has taken me that long to understand that boundaries are very, very important, especially for mothers, because when you are a mother, you're not just a mother. You may also be a wife. You're also a daughter-in-law. You're already a daughter in a sister. There are a lot of relationships that especially women in our country are weighed down by. And the moment you become a mother, all of it seems extremely overwhelming, because here is this tiny little person who's demanding so much out of you. Even when those children grow up, different stages of motherhood are also very challenging. My child is 10 now, and it's not gotten easier. It's gotten easier from the point that they're not physically dependent on you, but now the emotional and mental dependence is so much. And when you are a kind of a very hands-on parent, you sort of also get overwhelmed by the job at hand. So needing to regulate your emotions and regulating your child's emotions at the same time is one of the biggest, most toughest tasks I have done in my entire life. And I feel the first thing we need to acknowledge is we need support for mothers. All the mothers, especially in urban areas today, are existing in silos. They're existing on their own. Even though they would want to be with families who are supportive, they don't have access, either because of work or because of, even families come with a lot of conditional support. It's not the kind of support you would need at the time. So, like I said, setting boundaries has been the single most defining act of rebellion, of self-care. And I think for women, for mothers in our country, self-care is an act of rebellion. Because up until before my generation, like my mother's generation, nobody even knew what self-care was. I have never seen my mother stop or pause for a second, either to breathe, to catch a breath, to look at herself in the mirror, to do some sort of, only when she's stepping out, she will put some lipstick and quickly, that's also like a very quick 5-minute job, and she'll just leave. So I've never seen that. I didn't know what self-care was. And even now when it comes in for a mother, just to think of, oh my God, I also have to do self-care along with all this. So it seems like a very big burden. It seems like one more task to do. And we fail at it. I have failed at it miserably. I'll be very honest. Hi, Pranali. I love you. So I failed at it because I realized every time we talk about self-care, we talk about it coming from the outside. It's imposed upon us rather than it coming from an intrinsic place. What do I need? How can I support myself in this situation at this point? Right? When it's coming intrinsically, you'll automatically be committed to that self-care for a long period of time. But when it is imposed upon you, कि ये इसको self-care कहते हैं, let's say buying very expensive skincare products and applying that every night, that may be part of your self-care routine for sure, but understanding that self-care is temporary, And there is a lot of self-care that is more mental, emotional, and spiritual. That is a long-term thing, and balancing both is very, very important. So I think for mothers, when it comes to self-care, whether they are stay at home, whether they are working, and you rightly said all mothers are working, there's no mother that's not working, finding the first thing they need to do is, I thought about it actually, what they should do, and it might sound bizarre. I feel that they should create an Excel sheet. All these mothers should create a list of people and relationships that they have in their life, including that of their child. Okay, every single person that they engage with, do it over a 30-day log. Okay, let's say your spouse, your in-laws, your own parents, your siblings, your friends, your child, all of that, your domestic help, every single relationship that you're engaged in, your colleagues, your boss, all of that. Make a list of it. Just concentrate on how much time you're giving to each of these relationships during the day. Make a log of it every day. You know, like with my husband, I spend this much time. With my child, I spend this much time. Literally, you know, like there's physical time, there's a mental time. How much time was I thinking about my child while I was away at work? That's also time, right? So make a list of that. Then make another column and say, was this time energizing for me? Was this draining for me? You have to make that list and say, did this relationship enhance my energy, or did this relationship take away from my energy? And be very honest. You know, don't feel guilty when you're at least making that list, even if it's about your child. You know, we assume that just because we are raising a child, it has to be the perfect moment and we have to feel like the best mother or the good mother. And I suffer from it, you know, this whole syndrome of, oh, I want to be a very good mother. And that's true for many, many moms. So you have to constantly check that, did this time with my child energize me or did it take away from me? And you will notice which times with your child energized you. I'll give you a small example. When my kid was 7, he used to insist up until that time, feed me. You know, give me, you feed me, I'm not eating. He was perfectly capable of eating on his own, because in school he would eat, but at home he would just put his foot down and say, you feed me. And I realized that every time I fed him, I started feeling angry. He would tell me a lot of stories while he's eating. So he's in his own world saying, Mama, this happened, then this will happen, this. But I'm feeling angry while I'm feeding him, because I did not want to do that task anymore. Knowing that he was perfectly capable of eating, I didn't want to do it because it's making me slightly resentful, you know, that 1 ghanta lagata hai wo khane mein. And you will see that all mothers complain of, oh my God, the moment you think of feeding a child is the biggest dreaded thing, especially for younger children. That is something mothers dread the most, feeding your child. So I realized that I don't want to feel like that anymore. And I sat my child down. I remember having this conversation with him when he was 7. I said, listen, I do not like it. I do not like feeding you. I get very angry when I'm feeding you, and I don't want to feel like that. Can you please start eating on your own, and I will sit next to you while you're eating? And that is, and he immediately looked at me and he said, okay. And that day he had his food on his own. I'm sitting next to him, just watching him or doing my own thing that I need to do. And he's telling me stories, and suddenly I was very responsive to his stories, and I'm listening to him fully. I'm fully present there as a parent, unlike, you know, one day ago when I was feeding him and feeling very angry. So, you know, like if you're feeding your child and that part is draining you, then you either need to ask someone else around you to do it, because you're like, I can't do this anymore. I get angry. I do not want to feel like this with my child, right? Or you ask the child if they're old enough, like I did. He's 7, right? You would think that a 7-year-old does not understand, but they have immense intuitive understanding of what anyone around them is going through. Children are really receptive of all of that. So we need to trust our children. We need to trust more people around us. I think where mothers feel very helpless is that there's hardly any support, including from their own partners, you know, and that support is literally non-existent for most mothers. I've heard this new term now, single married mothers, that even though they are in a marriage, they feel like they are burdening that responsibility alone. So I would suggest, assuming you are a stay-at-home person, a mother, and your partner is always out, right? And they have no time to be physically there for you or for the child, right? But you're spending someday 5 minutes, something with each other, that utna to ho raha hai, even if they're traveling a lot. I would suggest, make it known to your partner. Acknowledge me. Tell your partner, you need to acknowledge me at least verbally. What I need to feel seen, because I feel motherhood is the one thing that we have invisibilized so much in our society. You know, the things we do, raising a child is the single most important thing that most women do in their lives, if they have a child, that's literally one of the most important things they do. Right? I'm not saying that those who don't have children are not doing. What I mean is those who have children, for them, it's literally takes up the maximum amount of their life energy and time energy, right? So all we need to do is be seen for it. That's the basic. That is where the foundation starts. Ask your partner to support you at least verbally. Hold my hand, look me in the eye, and tell me that I am doing my best. I don't want to be acknowledged as a good mother or a perfect mother or anything. I just want to be seen as a mother who's trying her best, and I feel that just by being seen by people around us, whether they are our in-laws, instead of adding more fuel to a lot of mothers who are living with their in-laws, there's a lot of conflict in how to raise a child. Instead of that, trusting the mother and supporting her in what she wants and how she wants, and acknowledging that what she is doing is an important task, instead of interfering, becoming an obstacle. So all of these are very tiny things, but we fail to ask for them because we think if we ask, we are not going to get it. We have made that assumption. A lot of times that assumption is also true, that you ask for it and you do not get it. Then you do need to do some serious questioning with yourself, whether that relationship that you are in is really enhancing your life or not. Because the biggest form of self-care is knowing that the kind of relationships I'm surrounded by are supportive of me, just as I'm supportive of them. The equality in that. And for me, that kind of self-care comes by knowing yourself, who you are, what you want. What do you want in life outside of being a mother? What do you want in life outside of being a wife, or any kind of relationship that you're attaching, or being a co-worker, or being, an employee of a company? What is it that you want or demand? The moment you have that list, when you have the clarity of that, you automatically move towards healthier choices that you make. And that is the biggest self-care that you can do for yourself. So yeah, for mothers, I feel it's a very complicated network of things, because when you go down that road seriously, you can take out 5 minutes, you can take out half an hour, give your child away to someone. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to doom scroll on Instagram. And yes, I have done that too, and I need it. I also need it. I want to feel numb at times. I don't want to feel anything but just doom scroll on social media and share stories and react to some things, and yeah, that's fine, I'm done. But that you can only do for a certain period of time, knowing that half an hour ke baad to bachcha aap hi ke paas aana hai, you have to take care of that child all over again. So what do you do? Question everything around you. I think that is very important for mothers. Know who you are, set boundaries, and ask for support. Even if it's verbal support, if physical is not possible, ask for acknowledgement. Demand these things from people around you. Yeah.
That's really beautiful, ma'am. You answered so many questions alongside, and
Yeah.
also the method that you explained about an Excel
Yeah.
sheet. It might sound very difficult,
Yeah.
but it will
It's
actually help in self-awareness,
very difficult
because
thing to do.
in
Yeah.
self-care, self-awareness is also a very important aspect. So yeah, that's really a great idea for all the moms out there. Followed by this, coming to the women who are at the workplace as well, what are some activities that they can do at their office or at their whatever place they work? What is something that they can
So,
do?
see, when you workplaces, we go with the assumption that our time is not our own. We are giving away our life energy in return of the money that we are getting, right? In terms of the salary that we are getting. So obviously, the first thing that goes out of the window, that you do not have control over your time. You cannot just take out time for yourself in the middle of a meeting or while you are attending a lot of work deadlines and all of that. So one, you move with that assumption कि यहाँ पे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा. But again, going back to the basics, know yourself. Know who you are at your workplace. Know your triggers at your workplace. Does a certain kind of meeting, does a certain kind of person or your co-worker trigger you? You follow your triggers. Why does this person trigger me so much? Or why does my boss, the way they say what they say to me, why does that happen? Also understand what kind of work environment are you in. Choosing the right work environment for you is also self-care, but I also feel that that's a lot of times that's not in our hands. And I need to also reiterate this fact: who gets to have self-care is also a matter of privilege. Like you and I are sitting here talking about, I literally had a conversation with my domestic help this morning, and I asked her, I said, do you have time, even 5 minutes for yourself during the day? And she's laughing. She said, no, where do I have the time? Because she's just busy surviving, right? In a city like Mumbai. And I was just trying to take a leap of faith with. I said, if you had the time, what would you do? Like, just imagine you don't have the kids to drop to school. You don't have this, you don't have that. She's a working woman, right? She's coming at 5 different workplaces, dealing with 5 different bosses. So I asked her, I said, what would you do if you didn't have the pressure of this? She started laughing. She said, no, my mind will go crazy because I'll start thinking about ridiculous things, random things. And I realized that was a very key thing that she mentioned. That's what we do. The moment we have empty time, खाली time जब हमारे पास होता है तो हमारा दिमाग overwhelmed हो जाता है. Suddenly a lot of thoughts come in that we are very uncomfortable with. We don't want to deal with all of those thoughts. And we sort of push them away. That is why we want to constantly be doing something. Our generation now, and the next subsequent generations will never know what it is to sit without a phone in hand, to sit without, just for the sake of sitting, right? To just stare into empty space. Because the moment that happens, we start feeling, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. We feel very heavy. We feel like, oh my God, there's nothing to do. Or I'll get anxious, oh my God, I don't have work to do. That is why I'm not feeling productive enough. So filling up your time, and that's especially true for women who are working, we fill up our time too much. I think taking a break from that, knowing that you are doing that you have no choice at work, that you will be doing this because, again, everything boils down to the money that you are earning and how much money you're earning. So that becomes a very, very important energy exchange that you are doing. Knowing that this energy exchange is fruitful to you is very key for working women. How much money are you getting in worth of the amount of time and energy that you're putting in? Asking that of your work relationships, asking that of your job. Again, like I said, a lot of times there may be no option. You have to work. It doesn't matter whether it's a toxic environment. You still have to go to work and earn that money. So then the only way you can have self-care is once you come back home and maybe find things to do on the weekend that sort of inform, that energize whatever you're doing. But at the same time, if you have the choice, I've seen a lot of women who are earning a lot of money, but they will still be very, very busy. It's not like finances is not a concern, but they will still stick to the job thinking they have no other option. So this would be mostly for those women, like, just again, that I keep going back to, because the moment you see it on an Excel sheet, the moment you see it written in front of you, this relationship is not energizing me at all. My hanging out with my co-workers on a Friday evening is just something I do, even though I don't like it. I just hang there. Otherwise, I think I'll miss out on something. So knowing who you are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you relate well to people? Do you want to hang out with these people? Given a chance, would you do that? Would you escape from your job if you were given a chance? All those things are clues to us whether we are happy in our jobs or not. So finding the right job, first of all, finding the right set of people. We don't give value to all these things. We always give value to acha salary kitna hai. And in the times we live in, that also becomes a huge thing. But I'll tell you very honestly, like, I'm a single parent, right? And I did a job for a whole year in 2019, and it was one of the best jobs I have done, the only full-time job I've ever done. But I still realize that a job, going to an office and coming back, is not giving me, so much time for so many other things that I need to do. I quit that job. So I've taken the risk of not having a stable income every year, just so I can spend more time with my child at home, who I realized he was 5 at the time, and now he's 10. So for 5 years, I've not had that stable income. But then what has happened is I've gone into and leaned into a sort of financial planning. That is self-care for me. Going into financial planning, finding the support for financial planning, making sure that your finances are in place, because then it doesn't make me anxious in a city like Bombay, where I have to pay big rents, where I have to run that house, pay the school fees, all of that is happening. So taking care of your finances without a stable income coming in, that has been my biggest self-care thing that I have done for myself. So again, yeah, like I said, for working women also, it's the same. Know yourself first. Before you start out on any path, know yourself. Just spending money that is coming in on a dress, on a thing, will give you temporary happiness, yes, and you should do it. But also weigh it against the long-term happiness that you have. I think we tend to ignore that a lot. For long-term stability and happiness, we give in a lot to short-term pleasure. And I think sacrificing a little bit of short-term pleasure in favor of long-term stability and happiness is something we all need to look at right now. Also because we're creating so many digital memories now, that one picture with friends out on an Instagram looks far cooler than being with yourself and crying maybe over a weekend just because you realize, oh, okay, this is not working for me, having that realization. So you don't want that. So yeah, knowing yourself and making sure to choose long-term stability over short-term pleasure.
Absolutely. And when you gave the example of your domestic help, I
Hmm.
just realized that the lady who works at my house,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, she would come and tell me that after she finishes her work, that Chaitanya, can you switch on the TV for me? And sometimes when I ask her early that, do I do it right now? She said, no, let me complete my work or something else.
Hmm.
Once she completes her work, she crochets.
Yeah,
And I was surprised to see that she can crochet,
yeah,
because crocheting is such a in thing
it
right now
is.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I said, where did you learn it
Hmm.
from? And she said, I just did it since my childhood.
Beautiful.
And I was so
Yeah.
surprised. So I said, even she's really old. So at this age as well, after working the whole day, when she
She finds
sits to relax,
time.
she knows what
That's
she has
beautiful.
to do to end her day with.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's a
on
nighttime
the
ritual,
other,
right? Yeah.
yes, it's her bedtime ritual. So she would complete her crocheting, and once it's complete, she'll come and tell me, just click a picture and save it.
Yeah.
So small things, and I realized that these people don't have a mobile phone, but still they have so much of activity to do other
Yeah.
than just being on Instagram. So it's really inspiring
So yeah,
sometimes
coming
when we
to
look
this,
around.
absolutely, this is so fascinating. I'll actually share it with my help also because, like I said, we were both laughing, and she was like, "No, no, no, I'm too scared to even have time on my own. It's better to just be occupied." But so lately, my son and I have had this bedtime ritual, and this is again for mothers and working mothers, something that you can really do for yourself. If you try and include your children in your self-care routine, it's easier because otherwise, there's a constant sort of yeah, they'll come and interrupt that constantly. So we both like to read. So at night after bath and brushing our teeth and everything, we're in bed and we start reading our own books, our respective books. um, Once I start feeling sleepy, then I'll do this short sort of meditation that I do. If he wants to join, he joins. Otherwise, he sort of waits for me to finish. And that is something that we have been, and I realize that I sleep much better when that happens. So whenever this bedtime ritual is in place, I'm sleeping through the night without waking up in the middle. Because I used to have sleep problems in like until last year, it was a big issue. But now with this introduction of the bedtime ritual, it's much better. So that is something we do. And when he was younger, I would ask him to that I'm meditating, and can you give me that time? But this child is smaller, so he suddenly doesn't like the fact that the mother shut her eyes and she's suddenly in her own world, and the child does not see you as separate from him. So what he would do is, it's very sweet. I suddenly recall this. He would come and sit in my lap while my eyes are closed. He'd just quietly sit in my lap and let me finish. And I still remember that feeling, and it was so beautiful that he would allow me to do that. I think we need to trust the intelligence of our children a lot more. Mothers, the first thing they do is center everything around their child. And while that is most likely to happen, I don't think there is a way out of doing that. But there are times, bits of time that you can take and make the child center around your routine as well. Both are possible. Keep it balanced. Don't completely let that go. When the child is really young, to be honest, there's nothing you can do. I'm sorry, but there's no self-care. It's the loneliest job for a mother of a toddler up until 2 to 3 years, when the child is completely dependent, and if they don't have help or any kind of family support, it's exhausting. I'm reiterating this. I think mothers need to be seen for what they do and how they do it, and this space needs to be more visible, and they need support. It's a cry for help. I'm crying for help on behalf of all mothers of very young children.
So, what would you suggest? So, you just said it's a very exhausting
Hmm.
job sometimes. So, what is the solution that as a mother you would want, or on behalf of all the mothers that you would like
I already
uh,
mentioned, I said in that moment, you have to realize you can't do it alone. I think I was one of those
to
mothers.
support?
I would just take, yeah, everything else in my hand. And I think because I made it look easy, nobody really around me sort of thought that I needed help. I regret that immensely. I wish I could go back in time and ask for that. Like, not just ask, like demand it. Put my foot down and say, no, I am going away. This is what I need to do. And I need you to, step in because I can't shoulder the responsibility of this on my own. So and I think mothers get overwhelmed. A lot of women in our country, I don't think we have been, at least my generation, we were not raised to ask for things. we've always seen our mothers as very self-sacrificing, and that is what we've imbibed internally. So we need to change that switch. And it's taken a few years to do that. I'm still learning, to be very honest.
So you just spoke about your bedtime routine with
Hmm.
your child. So the next question is just following that. So I would
Okay.
just ask it
Yeah.
right now that how do you involve your child in your self-care routine? So doing it together. So the mother
So
and the child.
it's become easier as he's grown older. In the last 2 years, since he turned 8, 9, it's been much easier. There's a very free communication between us. Also, I've been a single parent for 6 years now. So he's also gotten used to the fact that it's just me and mom, and we both understand intuitively what we want. Partly we do. A lot of times it's still constant. He's still a child. He still needs me a little more. So obviously he will interfere. I think one big self-care thing is, like I said, setting boundaries with my own child. Whenever I see I'm absolutely triggered, exhausted, I tell him, please do not engage with me right now. I will get angry. I don't want to talk to you like this. Just go in the other room. I'm like literally at the brink of it. I don't want to, have this sort of breakdown. Just give me 5 minutes to pause, to breathe. And he listens, he responds. So that's why I started with self-care, with setting boundaries. I think that is literally the single most important thing all mothers can do. Set boundaries with your partner, set boundaries with your child, set boundaries with everyone around you, because that is essential. That is how you protect yourself. That is how you take care of yourself. And trust them. Trust the people to listen to you. Yeah.
And that's essential because as a mother, you don't want to pour out your frustration on your
Yeah,
child. So
you
it's
don't, and you
better
end
to
up
tell
you
them
end
than
up
just
doing
give
that.
me a few
Yeah,
minutes to just settle
just
down and I'll
unwind.
be with you.
Yeah, yeah. And we do give each other that space. He already does that. He is an emotionally, I feel, very evolved child. I'm very grateful to have him. Very, very blessed. But yeah, that's also come from the fact that I have modeled it for him. I have given him the space whenever he needed, even when he was 4. We don't think children at 4 need space. We don't, we always assume that children, like are just a homogeneous group of people. And I've never treated my child like that. I've also treated my child as an individual right from the age he was 3.5, 4, which is when I really started understanding how my child needed to be parented. And since then, I have responded to his needs. And because I respond to his needs, he gets it. When I put my needs forward, he also sort of responds to it very beautifully. Again, it's not as seamless. We fight a lot. I shout at him. All of that happens. It's not like it's a very perfect household. We all have our moments. Like literally last night, I screamed at him because we could not finish our bedtime ritual. We were late, and suddenly we were off our routine. So sticking to routine for me is a form of self-care. 5 days a week, we are very strict with the routine, and that works beautifully for me. On weekends, that routine sort of goes for a toss because we also want to have a break. We don't want to strictly work in a regimented kind of thing. But I realize as I'm growing older, I need routine a lot. I need to unwind by 8 p.m. I've put a message on my WhatsApp thing, I'm not available after 9 p.m. And by 8, I start to unwind. And that helps a lot. And on Sundays, I keep my phone away in the other room. This is the only Sunday that I'm talking to you right now on the phone. But otherwise, I keep the phone away in the other room. And just the sheer fact of the phone not being next to me, I don't just look at it. I think we need digital detox, all of us, for self-care. That is one thing that we can do. All of us can include men, women, child, old person, everyone. Just an overall digital, yeah, take time off or switch off by 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Yeah, don't engage beyond that.
It's difficult, but it's
It,
very
it
necessary in
is.
today's
It's very.
world.
I struggle with it too. Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult, but I try. Whenever I remember, I'll do that. Yeah.
So, my next question is what are some self care activities that don't require a lot of time and money? Because people believe that self care is luxury, whereas self care is a necessity in today's world.
See, all the things that I've pointed out so far do not require money, time. They will require energy, but that is like literally in the long term, you'll get a lot of out of it. But if you are talking at the daily level, something that has really, really helped me, something I really stand for is journaling. I think people, I don't know why people don't journal. There's so much resistance to writing things down. I've seen that as I've recommended it to a lot of friends. And the first thing they come up with, oh, but I'm not a good writer. And the whole idea of journaling is not to be a good writer. It's just write it down, pour it down. See, the thing is, we also have to realize that we are living in I think no other generation before us has lived the way we are living. Ideally, we are all supposed to live in communities. We are all supportive communities, supportive families. We have to have a support system of friends, all kinds of people around us. So we are able to sort of share with others, listen to them, and maybe find what's working for them will work for us. But right now, it's not happening. We are all living very individualistic or solo lives for the first time in any generation before us, and this is all very new to us. That is why the whole loneliness thing, the fact that you're alone, is also comes up. And our routine, again, in a city like Mumbai, people who are not from Mumbai, who have not grown up here, they do not have solid support systems which come by chance. If you're raised here, so you already know the community you're living in. You have friends who are from school, who you will know. You'll have family, distant relatives. All of that is there. But I've come from outside Mumbai. A lot of my friends are not here. And I think the single most defining or helpful thing that I've done for myself is journal. Whatever's going through my head, if I put it down, that is a way of processing whatever's happened during the day. Every day, and now these days I don't do it every day. I don't feel the need to do it every day. But there was a time when I've done it for years at a stretch. This was right after my divorce, my separation. I remember for 2 to 3 years straight, I have journaled every single day. And at that time, to be very honest, I didn't even require therapy. I didn't feel the need for therapy because I was therapizing myself. I was automatically responding to what was happening around me and going with my gut feeling. I was in that space, and journaling literally helped me do that. So please do not resist journaling. I think it's a very easy thing to do. And a lot of times, even friends don't understand what you're going through. A lot of times, family wants to be supportive, but they won't understand. They can't support you the way you want to be supported. In that case, where do you go? What do you do? And if you can't afford therapy, then please, yeah, journaling is the best way to go forward. Nothing else. Of course, exercise on your own, right? Fitness. I won't talk about exercise because I'm still struggling with it. I need someone else to guide me there. That's the one thing in self-care that I've not been able to stick to very religiously. But when it comes to mental and emotional health, that is something I have really, really worked upon. And one beautiful thing that I discovered last year was therapy. Not that I didn't know about therapy, but I started therapy last year, and lately I've been very regular with it. And I just realized that I don't have to solve it all alone. Even though I can do it, I don't need to resolve my problems alone. I have this person who I can talk to without feeling embarrassed or ashamed, or you can share your vulnerabilities without a hitch. And finding the right therapist for you. And I've discovered that I would recommend that, because we are not living in supportive communities. I think therapy has, that is why, become an integral tool that a lot of us need to access.
And I'm really glad that you shared that you took a step for yourself.
Yes.
And it is very important because people need to know that there's nothing to be ashamed about
Absolutely
reaching
not.
out to a
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah.
And I hope that whenever people look back to this life, they are inspired by you and they take a step
Sure.
for themselves.
They should. I think therapy, like I said, because we are not in supportive therapy, that is why therapy has become also what it is. We're having so many conversations about it, and there are still people who are resistant to it because they'll have 1 or 2 sessions and they're like, "Arey, baat karke kya hota hai? Kuch nahi hota hai," And people don't realize that it takes multiple sessions. It takes, suddenly that there will be a breakthrough moment in therapy that happens. And personally, if you don't like talking, there are different kinds of. My therapist is an art therapist. So she makes me sometimes draw things. She makes me do very quirky things, which I'm very resistant towards. I'm like, oh, I have to draw. I don't want to do this. But the moment I do it, I have breakthrough moments. And I'm like, oh my God. Suddenly, because I'm a writer, because I'm also, I think I overthink a lot. It's important to get out of your head and suddenly see it visually. Maybe not in words. Sometimes visuals help so much. Right. So she makes me do that. And I have found immense support in her.
Absolutely. So, as I'm seeing that the list of questions that I sent you, you have answered most of them. So to just yes, to bring all of it together, my last question to you is how to find a balance for mothers, for working women, for every person out there, work life, personal life, time with self, with others, how to find a balance.
I think I have gone the opposite way now because I realize striving for balance is exhausting. I think what I've accepted is the chaos, that this is
Okay.
chaotic. Life is chaotic. No 2 days are going to be similar. One day
Correct.
I'll be very zen and very everything would be balanced and all the balls that I'm juggling are beautifully going, and the next day it'll all crash. And while it's easier to say it when I'm in the moment, it's tough to actually face it. But accepting that it is going to be chaotic, and not necessarily again striving for that perfect balance, because you'll never be able to achieve it. You can't. Not with a child, not with the kind of lives we are living, not with the responsibilities we have, the kind of work we are doing. I haven't been able to strive this whatever elusive balance that we are in search of. Nahi ho pata hai. Mat karo. Don't strive for something impossible. Why do that? Like, accept the chaos and then go with it. Then it's more like, acha, theek hai. Now then that makes you prepared for also ki theek hai, whatever will come my way, I'll take that. I feel that at least for me that works better.
Absolutely. So, what I can understand is that every day is like a challenge. No,
Yes.
you said no 2 days are same.
Yeah.
So a person needs to fit in their self in a new challenge every day, and that is when I feel self-care is
Agree.
important, because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, when you have finished everything that you had to do, you have to get this some time, either late at night or you wake up early in the morning, and those few minutes, be it prayer or
Yeah.
some time with
Morning
the person you
rituals
like.
and nighttime rituals.
Correct.
Yes, very important.
So
Hmm.
that is how you unwind and take care of your well-being.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you, and thank you for sharing all your personal moments with us. I'm sure all of us have learned so much from it. If I had all the time of the day, I would continue this conversation all day long.
Yes,
But
same
I
here.
feel um, restricting to the time is important, because that
Yeah,
is how
yeah,
much the attention span for the audience is as well.
yeah.
So, before I end the live, what are your concluding thoughts?
Uh, like I said, balance when it comes to self-care, know yourself first of all. Start anything, whatever you're doing in life, knowing yourself is the single most important. And you can't always know yourself because you're also changing in the moment. But right at that moment, what does self-care mean to you? Right? So wherever you are in your life, if you just list down what does self-care mean to me today? Does it mean just taking, just wearing a new dress and feeling good? Or wearing something, shopping for something that can be a short-term routine. Balance it with something also long-term. Balance it with something also mental and emotional self-care. Don't just the surface level physical self-care will give you immediate happiness, and please take it if you can indulge in it, go for it. But that has not worked for me, so I always sort of go into the longer, deeper, all of that, those things. And I feel that in the long term that helps us far more. It gives us a lot of clarity. So just that, I think, know yourself, try to be honest with yourself. That is also self-care. Don't lie to yourself. Look at the mirror every day and say that, this is who I am, this is what I want. If you're able to say it to yourself out loud, that is when you'll be able to ask people around you that this is what I want in self-care, because it should not be your burden alone. uh, Ideally, as a community, we should all be taking care of each other, right? So if I have a partner, if I have in-laws with me, if I have my child, all of us should be taking care of each other and having those conversations at home, making it apparent that this is what we all need. How can we support each other? I don't think families sit and talk about all of this, right? We need to do that. So yeah, if you can take that initiative in your family, go ahead and do that. And that's it. Be honest, be authentic, and yeah, take care.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am, for joining us
you.
today.
Thank you so much,
Thank you to
Chaitanya.
all the people who joined us today. I'm sure all of us learned a lot. I'll see you all again with another episode for the live series. And ma'am, looking forward to another conversation with you sooner.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me,
Thank
Chaitanya.
you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.